Hey everyone, today we're going to do another model kit build of a franchise I've never even heard of or not aware of. It's called Sakura Wars. It's for the PlayStation 4. I have a PlayStation 3 and I realized I was too lazy to even start that thing up. I only play games on my phone or my tablet now. Really just my phone when I'm waiting for a train. So here's the story behind this. It's set in 1940s Imperial Tokyo, and there are a bunch of steam-powered robots, and yeah, okay, steam mechas. So they look pretty cool. I mean, they look steampunk. They look old. They look like something, that would exist, especially this one I'm a fan of. I wish Bandai comes out with this thing. I'll definitely get that one. Alright, well, here we go. So this is a high-grade model kit of Sakura Wars, and this is a 124 scale model, which is pretty big for me, but I don't think they make smaller ones, so. And this particular thing is called the Spiricle Striker Mugen, and the character driver here is Sakura Amamiya type, and she's the star, I guess, of this video game. So we have some nice images here, front and rear, action shots. These Bandai things, they're not just static. You can actually pose them like action figures. It looks like the cockpit opens. And if you watch my channel, you realize I like Votoms, which are a bunch of walking tanks. And this is basically a walking tank, but not a Gundam that's so tall. It's crazy, like taller than buildings. This is more like, just based on this thing, something that would be like the size of a big vehicle, like a big van or a bus or something. Smaller than a bus, but anyways, Bandai, good stuff. Alright. It's a little anti-theft thing. Okay, so if you can read Japanese, you can probably read about this character and the story here. Sega apparently is the group that actually makes this video game. And color instructions there. Let's start on the inside usually. So you're going to double check that you have all these runners there with all the parts. And then there's a sticker sheet, three sticker sheets. And then clip it off and start, assembling with the cockpit first, and then working your way outwards, it seems like. And then here's some paint recommendations. We'll have to see if, yeah, I probably will have to paint that character because it's so big. Painting takes a lot of time. I don't like doing it, but I also don't want to have a crummy model. So just looking at this is just gray. Let me come back after I pull these out of the bags. Okay, so the runners were mixed up in the bags. So this A was mixed in with a different letter and stuff. These are the stickers, but stickers don't stay on very long. Not paper stickers like this. So I probably won't use these at all. They are nice though. If you wanna spruce up your notebook or something. But not for me. Alright, so there's three A runners. A1, it looks like the torso, if I had to guess. But now I'm noticing, yeah, it's just the way the plastic flows in the mold. You can see all these weird lines. Maybe a sticker will cover that up, but I doubt it's going to cover that up, right? So I'm probably going to have to repaint this thing. Yeah. I guess if you weather it after the fact, maybe you could hide up a lot of those lines. Some possibility to do that, but yeah, especially like on these, look at this big part here, this line there, this line there, it just looks a little bit strange, right? Lines and stuff, random lines going about there. So that will probably have to be redone. Let's see what the B looks like. So these gold ones, again, it's even worse with the metallic stuff, right? That just doesn't look cool at all. So I'm gonna have to repaint all these gold. Yeah. So the C is like a dark brown, it looks like. It's not black, it's a brown. Alright, turbines, exhaust pipes, sheaths for the swords and stuff. And again, yeah, you got this molding line. It doesn't look so bad on a dark color like this. Maybe I won't even bother painting this with these sprues. Okay. The D runners are gray in relatively small parts, so I don't see too much of the waviness. There's a little, I guess, tiny bit there, but again, I think I might leave these alone. We'll have to see what happens. The E is a green, a medium green. Looks like the interior panels. Yeah, the back panel, the side panels. And look at the details. Really cool, right? You could spend a lot of time detailing that up. I don't know if I will, but you could. This part of the interior or something, or maybe the lower torso, I'm not sure. A few red components here. You know, I gotta say these reds look pretty good. They don't look glossy. They look satin finish. So I might leave this alone. The pilot itself, a 124 scale pilot. So she's got a separate hairpiece and a separate flower, probably a sakura flower. So yeah, she's flesh tone already, which is nice. And then, look at this. There's some decals here. And so you can actually, put some eyes on her. I'm not sure what the circles would be for, but yeah, that'll come in handy. And then there's the polycap sprue. So they're like they're not a rigid plastic, as you can see. They're like a really flexible, almost slick Teflon kind of plastic, and these are used for the joints. They can expand a little but still have tension to remove parts and stuff. And paint doesn't want to stick to this stuff, I think on purpose, because if you add paint to the regular pieces, they tend to get so tight they're hard to actually press fit together. So I think the polycaps are a great idea. And then the last thing here is an actual three-dimensional jewel bead for the eye, the mono eye. So that's cool. Alright. So what I'm going to do is, probably fast forward, put some music on, clip off the parts, sand the cutting sprues, figure out what parts are going to go into what bins for color repaint, if repaint is ever necessary, and we'll see what I do for weathering. I'm not sure yet. And so here we are. I didn't use any of the stickers because these are paper stickers. I just know they're gonna not work well. So I did find it interesting that the only decals were the actual figure. The eyes for the figure are decals, but nothing else. Maybe it's because this thing is from the early 1900s. People, I guess, wouldn't have markings on something like this, right? Safety wasn't really a concern back in the early 1900s. No one even thought about that kind of stuff. Or maybe they did, but no one did anything about it. Another note, just to mention, mention here, is building the left arm right here. This is backwards. You really want to put these two pieces, D2 and D2, on the other way. If you put them on in this instructions, the cylinder of this gray area doesn't match up. It will be staggered back to the right. So that's kind of annoying. I think the instructions are wrong there. Alright, well, as usual, there's a lot of articulation with the Bandai model kit, so I'll go through a bunch of it here. First one of which is the actual cockpit. And one note I noticed, these pieces right here, this gold piece has 2 pins, and it's possible that you don't get the second pin in. And I did that, if you go back to my build. And so this thing was raised, and I couldn't actually get the hatch down because this hatch is underneath this piece, because it's a little bit flared out or something. So that's just another tip for you. Make sure you get both of those pins of this gold piece onto that green interior. Alright, so it's a little hard to get the light into this deep cabin. Let me get a flashlight, maybe. Maybe that's too bright though. So yeah, you know, it's just our upper torso, and yeah, there's some dial gauges and stuff. I did paint, you know, some dials and the piping in there, although you really wouldn't see much of it. Some speakers right there by our head. Not much going on the underside of this thing here. Alright, but it's cool, you know, it's a walking tank. So in this case you get a little girl driving this thing. Alright, and so this cockpit facade is also the mono eye, but the mono eye doesn't move left or right. That would have been cool, but it doesn't. And then this armor piece just goes on top of it. But it has very little articulation, like 3 degrees or something, right? But anyways, the hatch is supposed to go down, and there you go. Pretty seamless there. I think they're future-proofing for other models. These 2 boxes here on the side, there's just no parts to go in there, so I just put some paint wash in there to make them look like exhaust or something. Let's see. Yeah, the exhaust in this little thing, I actually have real rust on them. I used an iron oxide paint, and then I rusted them with a solution of vinegar, but mostly hydrogen peroxide, vinegar, and a little bit of salt, and that helps accelerate the rust process. And then I clear coated it because the rust is very fragile. So hopefully with moisture, over time these will even rust more underneath the clear coat if I'm lucky, but only time will tell. Alright, unfortunately these don't move or anything like that. So the next point of articulation, I guess, would be the arms. And so there's a butterfly here. You can maybe see, it comes out a tiny bit, the polycap. But that's it. That's it, as far as it'll come out. So you saw the arm comes out after a certain point. You can get pretty tight in there. And then this shoulder piece is on a ball joint on the top of that shoulder piece there. Then the shoulder piece itself can go in, well, alright, in and out a little bit, but on top of the ball joint, so you can get a lot of rotation and that butterfly effect as I showed you. And then this silver area and this gold area will rotate, so it's really tight though because I have some paint, but you can see that rotates. And then here's that elbow piece that was backwards, but right now it is centered where it's concentric. You know, the silver is concentric with the pink because I ignored the directions and put it the other way. Not much elbow articulation, not even 90 degrees, maybe 80 something. But this silver piece goes in and out of the forearm, which is kind of neat. So you can get a little extra reach there by doing that. So now it actually, well, Still not 90 degrees, but better than before. So you can get it really tight like that, or obviously I'm just going to leave it extended all the time. Boy, the arm fell out. So the paint, you know, adds a lot of thickness to such tight tolerances. So now the hand here, they're on a ball, but not much articulation before it collides. The fingers are not glued in place, but they allow a tiny bit of articulation with the thumb before it falls out. And as you saw, the sword has a little rectangular pin, and that goes into these two fingers here. I put some poster putty in there as well because it kept on coming loose. And then this. Maybe someday I'll actually just glue that all together. Alright. So the sword detail, you know, I forget what this guard is called in Japanese. But it's got decent detail. You're supposed to put a sticker there, but why bother? I painted it back in gold, a different gold than the gold here. And then I painted I think it's called a hamon. The blade edge is silver on top of a different metallic. Put some gold bolts and stuff in there. So, okay, you can sheath the sword though if you really wanted to. And over here, it will actually go in, right, all the way. But I figure might as well have something in the thing's hands. And you can see a little bit more detail back here. This armor piece here is on a poly cap. Whoop, look at that. So there's like a ball here, and like this is the joint it goes into. Not exactly sure why it has these things here, this little separate piece, but it does. Naturally you could glue these parts together, but I'm not going to really post this after this video, so I don't care. Okay. Now, not so great is this armor piece collides with everything else very easily. So you can rotate it, and you can pivot it out wherever you want, but it's just too big, you know. It's almost like this shouldn't be here, and then it would be better, but it's colliding as it is. Then we have the legs here. There's just a pin going in, and you can get a little bit of hip out, and then you can rotate it, but be careful of the armor colliding. This is a split here for the thigh, and so you can rotate that. But then the foot has a hinge up there, and it's going into a ball into the actual foot, so you can get a little rocker and stuff, rotation, whatnot. But it's going to eventually collide with the armor again. I saw the hand fall off. I haven't glued I don't think I've glued any part of this thing, because I kept on taking it apart to add more paint here and there. There was actually a point where I sprayed it with a bunch of bleach to try to rust it, and it actually, for some reason, the gold, the red, none of the paint was affected except for the main pink. It just took off all the pink, and I thought it was kind of cool looking, but I ended up just hand brushing a bunch of pink back on because too much of the white was showing, the white primer I used. Alright, yeah, so the scabbard here is alright. It's just two pieces glued together. Some armor piece here, a little grab handle there. You're supposed to paint this red, but I'll never get it the same color because it'd be red on gold. Yeah, this is real rust here for this weird turbine engine thing here. It's all under clear coat. I don't know if these are exhausts of some sort. This thing, oddly, you would think it would move, but it doesn't. It's just there. I thought it was on a hinge to pivot up and down, but I don't think so. Alright, so yeah, all over the thing you got a bunch of small rivet marks, and I painted all those gold. And then after that I weathered it, you know, with Tamiya paint wash everywhere, pretty much. All the cracks and all the bolts and all this little filigrees. Supposed to have stickers on these swoopy lines, but I know they'll just peel off, so I just left it alone. I also know I can't paint that very well, so again, I left it alone. Alright, so this little skirt can pivot in and out. I think that's it for the moving parts. Yeah. It's just a big, bulky walking tank, as one would expect. I do like its styling. Whoever designed this thing, I think, did a great job. It looks pretty cool. Alright. I don't actually have anything 1/24th in my collection, except for this. But I do have some deformed Votoms, which is what got me into buying this in the first place. This is by B25, and these are claimed to be 1/28 scale, like 2.5 inch I think it was. And you got a little plastic figure and stuff in there as well. And I think it fits pretty well. The Scope Dog is a tiny bit bigger, but yeah, actually that human being in there is quite huge compared to the human being in here. So, it makes sense. Well, no, it doesn't. If this is a 1/28 scale, this is pretty small. It should be smaller than this, being 1/24 scale, right? But this is a tiny, I assume, teenage girl. And this is supposed to be a grown man. This is a deformed Votoms, though. It's supposed to look cartoony, whereas I think this is supposed to look realistic to a video game. I weathered that one quite a bit. And then I have this Robo Nemo. This is a bloodsucker Votoms, and it's a much more squatter deformation. So this doesn't look like the Votoms cartoon. As you can see, even the character is very cartooned. This is one of the taller ones I have, but again, it fits alright. This doesn't claim to be any scale whatsoever because it's deformed, but I think all three of these could, be shown in the same display case, as long as you don't open up the cockpits, because they're all three of them are totally different, right? Yeah, those humans are all very different in their styling. Whereas again, that's probably the most realistic. But I never really display them with the cockpits open anyways, so I just like robots. Alright, let's get these guys out of here. One last bit of articulation I forgot is the torso. There's a ball joint there, but it's such a... it collides with itself, so I don't even really call it a ball joint. It's more of just a rotary joint, but again, it collides with the armor. It's only like 5-10 degrees again there. So in conclusion, I think it's a really nicely designed mech. No major problems, really. Just that one weird elbow direction problem, but everything else went fine. There's no glue. If you're new to Bandai, all this is a friction fit stuff. And so it's quite fantastic. Nothing was really loose, and in fact, you should be warned, if you paint the parts, they might be too tight. You might get them on, but you'll never break them apart again. So I suggest you scrape off the pins if you have any paint on them before you assemble it, in case you want to take it apart for some reason. Okay, well, I think Bandai does have a few more robots from this franchise, so I like these walking tanks enough, and this styling of this is totally different from Votoms, but it's still a tank. I like it, so I'll probably get those model kits at some point in time. So, yeah, hopefully you like this video. It definitely took a while to do. I don't know, 30, 40 hours? So much painting time. Alright, I'll see you guys. Bye now.